12 years ago today, I was sitting on the floor of my tiny one-bedroom apartment, staring at my bank account, $9,000 from 3 simple SQL injection bugs that I had found on Yahoo. My rent at this point in life was roughly around $600 a month. I had just failed my Java class twice, and I genuinely didn't know if I was gonna make it out in tech. And I remember thinking in that tiny apartment, holy shit, I just made this. What else can I do here? Where else can I take this? Fast forward to today, I've made over $2 million with bug bounties, and 650,000 of that came from a single year, and I think about 200 of it was in a single month. I've won the most valuable hacker award for one of HackerOne's events. I've hacked into companies like Apple, Amazon, Airbnb, Facebook, and you name it. And on top of it all, I've built a company off of the back of it. But the money isn't what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about what I've actually learned getting to this point today. Because the lessons that got me here to my $2 million, well, they apply to whether you're trying to break into bug bounty, start a business, or just figure out what you're going to do with your life. Now, the story of how I went from failing college classes to doing this full time, there is a lot more to it. If you want to hear the full story of what really triggered me to go all in with bug bounties, just drop a comment saying story down below, telling me that you want that video, and seriously, I will make a video because there are some really wild moments that I haven't told anybody just yet. So let me know and I'll make it happen. All right, now let's dig into it. There is a great book called Start With Why. Go read it, honestly. But the core idea here is simple. You need to know why you're doing this. Money alone isn't going to be enough to get you through the hard parts. When I started, my why wasn't money. It was survival. I was studying computer science and I hated it. I was failing my classes. I couldn't get my homework done. And I kept thinking to myself, if I can't even finish a simple school project, how am I supposed to get a job? And let alone get a job that I'm actually going to enjoy. Then at some point, my school started a security program. It was outdated, but through that, I met some professors who recommended an after-school program where most of them were just for federal agencies trying to recruit and bring people onto their company. And that wasn't really my thing. But at one of those events, I was talking a big game to a recruiter, and he basically called my bluff. He said, if you're so good and you're too good for our programs, why don't you go and try bug bounties? Just go ahead, look up Yahoo or Google's bug bounty program and give it a try. And that was it. I was blown away by the fact that I could just hack websites and make money from it. My why at that point was super simple. I needed something to put on my resume because I had nothing and software engineering didn't appeal to me. So bug bounty became my way to build a career, but not just a quick buck. And the thing here is my why kept on evolving. First, it was a job. Then it was to make enough money to support myself through school. Then it was to go full time. Then it was to be financially stable. Then it was to just fund my own company. And your why honestly doesn't have to be set in stone. But hear me out when I say this, you need one and it needs to be real. Once I had my why, the next question was, okay, how do I actually get good at this thing? That's where I made my first big mistake. Early on, I was doing what I think a lot of people would do, jumping around from target to target, never really going deep on anything. And honestly, most of my success came from doing exactly the opposite, from spending long hours on a specific program. When I first got started, there were maybe 4 or 5 real targets: Yahoo, Facebook, Google, and a couple other ones. There were people like Nafi, Ibrahim, Smeagol's, who were already crushing it. And if I'm being honest, they weren't really resources to learn from. You were literally learning on these live targets as you were going, seeking what works, what doesn't. Some of those people were kind enough to even write blog posts about their findings, and I would honestly just go read them, study those, and try the same techniques on different subdomains, applications, or even different targets. So when it came down to Yahoo, I would read someone's blog post and see if I can find those exact subdomains. Eventually, I heard through a lot of Twitter DMs and Skype, Skype, we were using Skype to communicate back in the day, that Yahoo was very well known for SQL injections, and there were a few blog posts about it. So I went hunting specifically for SQL injections. I found 3 and they paid me $3,000 each. So that's kind of where that $9,000 that I mentioned earlier came from. The lesson here though is that when I stopped spreading myself thin and went deep on specific vulnerability types, that's when things really took off for me. And if you look at my videos later in my career, I went all in on blind XSS, SSRF, IDOR, misconfigurations, API hacking, and really niche vulnerabilities. And I completely moved away from recon because honestly, it got boring. Too many people were doing it and the companies were getting better at the easy stuff. So if you're just starting out, Pick a bug class that genuinely interests you. Don't just learn everything at a surface level. Go deep. Understand it inside and out. That specialization is what separates people who find one bug from people who find hundreds and are able to identify patterns. Now, I just talked about learning from other people's blog posts and studying their techniques, but that only gets you far on your own. But the thing that really changed everything for me wasn't a technique or a specific tool. It was the people and the community. So I've mentioned Smeagol's a couple of times. Him and I started what we called Bug Bounty Forum back in the day, so we could just connect more hackers and more bug bounty program managers. I started collaborating with him, Zayed, and a bunch of other people through that Slack channel, and it completely changed my results. Me and Zayed would hack Airbnb together and have months where we would just make a couple of thousand, anywhere from $5,000, $15,000, $20,000, or even $30,000 just from splitting the work, and the bounties just 50-50. That helped us not to just learn, but evolve together for like 6 to 8 years. If it wasn't for that collaboration in the early days, I honestly don't know how much I would have learned. We really pushed each other. We bounced off ideas from one another. And when one of us was stuck or couldn't figure something out, the other would do something different or even see something completely different that could have been missed. And it wasn't just Zayed. Over the years, I built friendship with people like Rhinorator, Archangel, Tommy, Sashko, you name it, a bunch of incredible hackers. And every single one of those relationships has made me better in some way. So here's my practical advice. Pick a target with somebody. Split the workload and the bounties 50-50. Reach out to people who are crushing it on those specific programs. Honestly, you'd be surprised how many of them are actually willing to help you out. Also, help others. Remember where you came from. The community gave to me, and I've tried to give back through content, through mentoring, and through everything that I do. If I had to go back and do it again, I'd make more friends earlier. But here's what's interesting about collaboration. It doesn't just make you better technically, it also makes you more ambitious, because when you see someone you respect hitting numbers you didn't think were possible, something really just clicks in your brain and you start thinking bigger. Okay, now let's just rewind and go back to that $9,000 moment. I'm sitting in my apartment, rented $600, and the shift in my head was simple. If I can make $9,000 in 30 to 40 days, can I just do that regularly? That thought alone motivated me to finish school, not worry about bills, and focus entirely on getting better. And then later, during my first full summer as a full-time bug bounty hunter, I had almost $200,000 in 1 month. Once you get a taste of what's actually possible, you want to set another goal, and then another. The high of hitting those numbers is an incredible motivational tool. But here's the key. Your goals don't have to be about money. And they don't have to be permanent. When I started, my goal was to just get a job offer. Then it was to make some extra money so I had a little bit of a savings and I could live comfortably. Then it was to go full-time with bug bounties, then financial stability, then funding my own company like Hacking Hub. But all that worked because I have an addictive and obsessive personality. I've learned to channel that into the good stuff instead of my vices. And once I have momentum, I do not stop. I ride that wave until I naturally have to slow down, which honestly brings me to something really important, and that is breaks. I go through these massive burnouts. From 2019 to 2022, my bounty income kept dropping because I was so tired and I never took a break. I think taking breaks is absolutely necessary. I take these random 1 to 2 month hiatus and then come back fresh. It's like sports. You get the yips. You get in your own head. You start telling yourself that you're washed up, you're not good enough, you're not finding bugs. But then you come back, you find that first bug, and then momentum starts building again, and you're rolling. Build momentum, ride it out, rest when you need to, and always come back. And every time I came back from one of those breaks, I noticed something. The game had changed a little bit. The targets were harder, the developers were smarter, and I realized that if I wanted to keep up, I needed to level up on how I actually look for bugs. Not just what I'm looking for, but also how I look. I don't have a lot of regrets, and I don't know if I would call this a regret, but one of them is not learning to read code earlier. It makes a massive difference in your ability to find bugs, and I didn't really get into it until way later in my career because it was easy to find some of these vulnerabilities without knowing how to code. So if you're starting out right now, do this early. Don't make my mistake and just get ahead of it. And here's the good news. We have AI now. AI makes it so much easier than it was for me. Leverage tools like Claude to also create more tools that could be used in your workflow. For me personally, they help me think about things differently. I can bounce ideas around. I can have AI look at a behavior with me and suggest things to try. It's helped me go from point A to point B way faster. Sometimes solutions that would have come to me months later come to me way closer, and I can close that gap a lot faster now. So for people starting out today, you have it both easier and harder than I did. Easier because a lot of resources like Hacking Hub, Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, blog posts, tweets, videos, tons of programs to hack on. We were limited to like 5 targets back then, but harder because the industry is getting educated too. Developers are getting way better. AI is helping them too. There are way more hackers and also way more tools and automations available to everybody. Most of the tools back then that I was using were homebrewed and barely anybody open sourced them. Only a few people like Tom Nom Nom were putting good stuff out there for everybody to use. So use every advantage you have. Learn to read code, use AI to automate the boring stuff, or even hire someone to handle them when you can, and focus your energy on the actual hacking. Now, everything that I've just told you, the techniques, the bug classes, the methodology, I shared a lot of that publicly through streams, through my talks that I do at bug bounty conferences or even NahamSec conferences like B-Sides, DEF CON, and so on, through my content. And that decision, it changed life in ways that I didn't expect, both of them good and bad. Honestly, looking back at it, content creation was the best and the worst thing that happened to me. People were able to see my flaws and efficiencies on stream, on camera, and I got labeled even as a content creator who's just selling courses in my comment sections. That puts doubt in your mind. It gives you imposter syndrome on a whole different level. But you know what I did? I used it. I used the criticism to learn more and get better. And then in 2024, I went out and made my $600,000 in bounties in a single year. I also won the MVH at the HackerOne event. I wanted to be sure that I still got the dog in me. And the people that actually cared, they gave me actionable feedback publicly and privately. They gave me pointers. But on the other hand, the loud and obnoxious keyboard warriors, I've learned that it's more about them projecting their own stuff and insecurities onto me than it is about me. I tell you all this because I know there's a lot of noise and negativity in our community, and I know it bothers a lot of people, but honestly, I would just say avoid all of that noise and continue to share whatever you know with other people and learn from them and use that in a positive way. But let me talk about sharing really quick and sharing your work. I don't really regret being open. I know so many of the new generation of hackers who have privately thanked me for my content, some of which are considered to be top hackers in our community now. And honestly, it kind of feels like I'm passing the torch down, and the impact that is so massive that I can live with having to constantly evolve with my techniques because people were watching and copying them. I'm not regretting any of that because it feels good. I had a massive impact, but I've gotten a lot smarter now about it. I used to share ongoing methodology in real time. I would go to conferences and talk about them as I'm working on these things. Now I do share the same exact things after I've squeezed everything out of the technique so others can also make money from it too. So be open, give back, but also be strategic about your timing. So I found my why. I went deep. I built a community. I set goals. I learned new skills. I shared openly. But none of that would have gotten me to my $2 million if it wasn't for one moment that forced me to go all in. In 2022, I was let go of my job and I made a decision right there. No more working for people who don't appreciate me. I'm going to do my own thing and build something amazing out of it for myself. That chip on my shoulder is what drove me. I didn't want to fail, and I knew that without a boss or a full-time job, I had nobody else to blame but myself. That's accountability, and it is a gift. I started hacking to fund Hacking Hub. I got serious about targets that paid well over $2,000 to $4,000 for highs or mediums, and then anywhere with $10,000 plus for criticals was a great starting point. I went hard at life hacking events that probably made me a ton of money from those alone, and I wasn't messing around anymore. And when I had that massive month that I mentioned earlier, that didn't happen just because I was talented. It happened because I was prepared. I was focused and I had something to prove to myself. So if you're watching this and you're in a situation where things aren't going your way, whether you failed a class, you lost a job, or someone told you that you can't do it, use that, channel it, set a goal, be consistent, and don't let doubt overtake you. Talk to your friends about your doubts and let them be a sounding board. You don't have to do this alone. I know I talked a lot and I've covered a bunch of things, but if you take anything from this video, take this. Find your why, go deep, surround yourself with people who push you, and when life forces your hand, bet on yourself every single time. 12 years ago, I was sitting on the floor of a one-bedroom apartment wondering what I was going to do with my life. If I can go from failing Java twice to 2 million in bounties, I promise you, you can do more than you think. And if this video motivated you or helped you in any way, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to drop a comment if you want to hear the full story of what really got me started. There is a lot that I haven't told you yet. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.